Hi, this is Heather Hoynes, and today I'll be sharing my virtual library. I think this virtual library is a great tool to use for teachers so that when you want to quickly access a book on a certain genre or something that you want to share with a student, that it's right here for you. Also, as new books come about, this is a great way to store some of your favorites and your classics so that they don't get lost because they're important as well. And absolutely relevant to today in many cases. For instance, in contemporary realistic fiction, Grandfather's Journey is a wonderful story about a man who has his foot in two countries. He loves Japan and he loves America, and he really can't decide, and he goes back and forth between the two. I did not know that, but this year I learned that contemporary realistic fiction is one of my favorites genres. I had no idea. I also love 100 Dresses because the opportunity to be kind gets lost, and kindness always counts. I also enjoy diverse populations. Being a native California, Tar Beach is always one of my favorites because I don't think if I had ever read that, I would realize people didn't just go to the beach. I sort of gets lost there when you just live in your own little world. Idoko is wonderful because it teaches respect to elders. How to Make an Apple Pie is one of my favorites because she goes around the world and picking the best from each of the countries to make an apple pie. And I think that's a wonderful story. This year, I was exposed to The Sandwich Shop and The Name Jar, and The Sandwich Shop is at the top of my list as something to purchase on Amazon. It is one of my favorite books that I have ever read, and I feel like that really exposes children to different cultures and heritages. Fantasy is another wonderful story. I think it teaches a lot about symbolism, and there's a lot of themes here. Narnia is a great symbolic book. The Borrowers is wonderful, but The Tub People, I had to say that was my favorite because they are just, it's the cutest thing, and they worry in their family, even though they're not real. So super fun. Graphic novels. This year I loved reading A Game for Swallows. That was a really interesting book, and I enjoyed it, and I plan to make the cake from there this summer. But I really chose El Defo. My daughter reads that to me, and I love it. And it just reminds me that we're all special and unique, and we're all superheroes in our own way. And so I love her little character. She is very special. And my daughter, I enjoy listening to my daughter, and the graphic novel is a great way for children to read out loud and it not be so mundane. So that's a wonderful story there. Historical fiction, A Fine Dessert this is my favorite book. I teach cooking classes, and I have enjoyed very much sharing this past few weeks, teaching how to make blackberry fool. And I also enjoyed sharing that slavery, because as much as it's a touchy subject for some, it's also something that we need to share that was not a great part of our history. Something we shouldn't be proud of, but it's something we should be aware of so that it does not happen again. Informational biography. Well, I'm a big fan of Jon Shetska and Jerry Pelota, so you'll see that theme here. Who Would Win is one of my favorite books. It's very quick to access knowledge and very small. I love it. And the Who Was series is great. But Knuckleheads had to take the cake here because this is so funny, and he tells a story of him growing up with his brothers in New York. And it is you will laugh out loud, and I just think this is a fabulous book. I love my children reading and hearing them laugh. There's nothing like that. So fun. Poetry. Well, I love poetry because it's so creative and amazing to share that, especially when talking about math. So this is really fun. My mom had him sign it back in 1999, and then of course I saw him in 2005, and he signed it for me. So this book is very special to me, and I enjoy reading it to the 4th grade class every year, and I bring them a Hershey bar and a little copy of How to Make Fractions with the Hershey milk chocolate. So that's fun. The last two are science fiction and folklore. For science fiction, I chose this graphic novel that is wordless, and it is extremely brilliant. And for science fiction, which I'm not a big fan of, but now that I know that the Lorax and the Giver are in there, I may give it a try. So I plan to read the Giver over the summer. Traditional literature is one of my all-time favorites. I'm a big fan of folk music and folklore, so I enjoyed Abby Yo-Yo very much because of the music involved in it. I love things like The Emperor's New Clothes. There's a lot of them, but Abby Yo-Yo is really my good old staple. I love it, and I love tradition, so folklore seems to be congruent with that, and I love it. Thank you very much for letting me share my virtual library and my passion for children's literature, and I'm very excited to have this wonderful new tool.